Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Grumman Pilots YouTube channel. And today we're going to explore what we've been doing for 4 years, making videos. And I wanted to have some video shot on September 1st for you to have in there because, after all, I just got my hair washed and I'm all clean shaven, so I should look pretty good in front of a camera. So let's go have some fun.
So we would like to ask you please subscribe, hit the like button, and hit the notify to stay current with our content.
Today we're going to explore what we've been doing for 4 years, making videos.
Well, we were using video from a year ago, 2020, when we made this original video, but now it's been 5 years, and now let's talk about what we've been doing for the last 5 years making videos. And so we want to talk about our first video. Our first video came out. Now, our first video was only 10 seconds long, and we threw it up on the channel August 24th, 2016, because we were setting the channel up with YouTube, and I needed some video to throw up, and I didn't have any. And so I had a video I had just taken of a customer's airplane where we were installing the well and tail strobe, and I used that video and threw it up on the channel. And it became our only video on the channel for almost 2 months until we came out with our second video. Now, in October of 2016, I got video from Ken, and it was video that he had shot in his shop, and he had for a number of years, and we just hadn't ever really gotten around to recording it when I was at his house. So he was mailing me boxes of CD-ROM DVDs that he was burning, and then every time I was at Ken's shop working, we would always take the time to go through his rich library of video he had from back in even up to the 80s, that we would make copies of pertinent stuff and bring it home, and I would digitize it and then throw it up on the channel. Now, in those days, my editing skills were non-existent. As you saw from the first video, it's just the video. I did manage to eventually scrub the soundtrack of Celine Dion so I wouldn't have to deal with royalty fees. But with the second video, I basically just took 45 minutes of video and threw it up on the channel. It would be a few videos later before I got to where I was having an intro and an exit, and unfortunately I copied Hollywood and I took their long 30-second intro and exits, but anyway, it was a start on the channel. And then that was on video number 7, which is all about the alternator door. About a week after we got the intro and exits running on the channel, we added the blue marble, and at first it was just centered on San Francisco, but it didn't take long before we had it centered on Hogan Field. And we did that on the Fred Cocosta video, which was one of our first videos to use this as an intro. So it became an evolutionary process. And then it was a year later on this that we added the following soundtrack to our basic intro, and it was basically Shop Monkey out at the airplane with his cell phone recording prop clear as he begins to start the airplane. So let's take a look just for a few seconds of our soundtrack, and then we'll move on to our next topic.
Clear prop.
At this point, we were making our movies much like Hollywood did.
The basic storyline of the cheetah flight is you go out to the airport, you pull your airplane out of the hangar, you go out, you take to the air, you enjoy it, you come back at the end of the day, and you land.
And we shot some very close-up 4K video of this bearing in there.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Grumman Pilots YouTube channel, directly supporting the Grumman Pilots Association. And this morning we want to revisit the stacking of the bevel washers. Okay, there are 3 stacks for the bevel washers, and these are using the thick ones. If you have 3 washers, first one goes cupped up, the next 2 cupped together to make a little flying saucer. That's your 3 bevel stack. Now that we have quiet again, and that is your 3 bevel stack. Again, cup up, cup down, cup up. Now that's the 3 stack. The 4th stack can go one of 2 ways. You can take the last one, the number 4 bevel washer, and slide it, and it rides right over facing cup up on top of the other one. Now you have 4 bevel washers in the stack, and should you have enough room, this one can actually be flipped over for the 4th configuration with all the nutting and all held down here. It's whatever you need to do to match up that cotter pin through the castle nut to line it up to lock it all in place. So these are all the possible bevel stacks. Again, 3 stacked up like that, 1 riding it in conjunction, and this one opposed in the 3rd configuration. So we hope that takes a little bit of the confusion out of your bevel stack. I'd like to thank you for watching Grumman Pilots YouTube channel. We hope you found this useful, and have a good day flying your Grumman. Thanks for watching. Good evening. Hi everybody. Alright, let's just cover a couple things really quick. Firstly, if you've got a cell phone with you, can you please put it on vibrate or on silent so that we don't disturb the other participants? For those of you who are in the back, I know it's like church, the back always fills up first, but we do have a lot of good seats here, and the air conditioning is a little bit cooler up here in the front of the hall. Alright, thank you very much. Tonight's talk is forced landings, and a forced landing is what we're going to talk about because, trust us, it's something you never really want to have to experience for yourself.
And I didn't find out about the actual footage of the accident from a security camera until about 2 years after the accident.
All right, we are recording.
Okay, so now we're coming to part two. We've talked about the forced landing. We've talked about how strong Back in 2008, Ken and I had some fun because we had a guy who started every year with his talk with the same material. We decided to have some fun with it.
For you who are wearing purple ribbons, how many of you have seen the movie Conan the Barbarian? You may remember the scene when Conan is sitting around at the warlord's camp. The warlord asks his son, what is best in life? And the son says something about
We had fun.
Okay, so the background noise being provided by Michael on the mower, the Cub Cadet, bright yellow, zero turn radius. And here I am on the camera doing a remote microphone test, and I'm approximately... So, we were so busy making videos, we didn't realize we were building a channel. Thanks for all of you who brought it to my attention. Thanks for your... Well, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for taking this little ride with us. We hope you had a good time, found it all useful and informative. Thanks for watching, and have a great day flying your Grumman. Look for this link on a GPA page to support us. Thank you very much for your support. And as we transition to our new cameras, the Sony Rio and the GoPros, we made videos showing people their capabilities in case they were also interested in producing videos. Association, and this morning we're going to take a look at behind the scenes of our new cameras, the Sony RXO and the GoPro. Now here's a picture of the RXO that we shot at 996 feet per second, and it really slows down the birds. It's a 1/32 speed slow motion. Now we're going to take a look at some time lapse, and this was back in the day of 2009 using a laptop, some Perl script, and a camera. But this was shooting a photo every minute for an entire day and then stitching them together and making a movie at the end. And that was what you had to do if you wanted time lapse. So we did this out of the back of a window of the garage just to take a look at the sun shadows as they moved during the day. We also did a shot where we took a shot every day at noon from January 1st to December 31st, and you get to see the sun angle change and the shadows it throws from the trees. So we hope you find this amusing. We're about ready to do this with some other time lapse. Stand by. Now here's some more time lapse. This was done with a GoPro, and this is of a plant growing. It was putting out 2 new shoots, and we were focused in for 2 days as they got bigger, and then we had to zoom back out with a different camera setting to be able to pick them up as they finish their growth. But you get to watch them grow up, and they move during the day. It's amazing how the plant just moves and follows the sun and other inducements during the course of time. So please enjoy this.
So this is a little behind the scenes look at the camera kit and video capabilities that we have in the GPA that's going to show up in our videos. Thanks for watching and have a good day flying your Grumman.
My mom used to love to say that when life gives you lemons, make lemonade. And you know, I'd like to think that one good thing that came out of my accident, other than I've learned a bit more patience, is that two of my customers, Gene Timperman, who owns the 6-cylinder Tiger, and Sherman Couch, who has a 76 Tiger that he bought from Fletcher back in the day, they met by standing on either side of my hospital bed. And Gene is an aerodynamic designer, and Sherman's an engineer that makes things happen when you have an idea. And please enjoy this video, but this all came about because of my accident. It's an incredible technology that actually solves a lot of our problems. I'm very enthused about it. I hope you enjoyed it, and please stay tuned for more details on that coming up. Now, the two things that we've started this year is we bought a Project Tiger. We actually found a good deal, and there's lots of videos out there on that, as well as a playlist series. And we also started our Hangar Flying series, which is basically was going to be a list of all the things that I had been asked during the week about our airplanes, and that way, instead of sending out a ton of emails, we could do it in one video. It's caught on fairly good, and it's hard to believe that we're already up to episode 15 or 16.
Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Grumman Pilots YouTube channel. And today is episode 8 of Hangar Flying, Friday, the 25th of June, 2021.
and that includes tearing down the engine and putting it back together, and we hope you found those useful, and they were done in 4K, by the way. And then also very briefly, not only were we involved with work at the airplanes and the video work that we're doing on the channel, but I'm also keeping you in the loop on what's going on with my ability to be able to learn to walk again and learning to use the exoskeleton. You know, it's been a wild ride, and I've been having fun with it, and I hope you've been enjoying it. So stay tuned for some more updates.
Right now. That's it. That's your home.
Sit. All right, here we go. We're sitting.
Okay. So how do you sit down?
The guy that sold his airplane 20 years
Jade
ago
ready.
still had a hangar because it was cheaper than rent storage space.
So what won't fit in my ball, I'm gonna, Eric's willing to take back in his, once he got the tiger. Yeah.
Did you find all the pieces for the
He's gonna look some more, he's close, we're close. We're close.
You might have, but
That called anyway, it's not feeder airports, surplus airports or whatever. Yeah. Their rule is that you have to have not only an airplane, but an airplane
Has to actually be an animal and everything else. Has to actually be flying.
Right. Or, you know, at least relatively.
And here's video of the snowy day when we decided to load all the parts and send them down to Houston. But the nice thing about this was we had just gotten the radiant floor after all those years up and running, and it's been a very good radiant floor, and it has inspired the shop build series. So how to do a radiant floor and how to do the epoxy floor and other nice projects.
Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Grumman Pilots YouTube channel. This is the companion video of what Ken's shop looked like May 29th, earlier in 2018. And now we've loaded all of Ken's stuff in these two trailers, and they're here at Yankee Aviation at Butler County in Hoganfield, Ohio. And we're going to be unloading them and bringing this stuff indoor and cataloging it. But we just wanted to show you that here are the trailers, and we'll take various pictures during the day. Thank you very much. Well, you saw everything in the trailers. Now everything is pretty much laying in the hangar. Hope you can see it in the lighting. We've made piles of everything. We have a dumpster for the trash, and we're starting a pile of wings over there, and these are propeller mounts. So stand by for some more fun. Well, this should be a bit easier on the lighting. So here are stacks of 2- and 4-place motor mounts. Those motor mounts, by the way, are Cheetah and Travelers, not Tigers. We have a Yankee fuselage, which is going to get scrapped. We have a stack of canopies for 4-place. We have Yankee number 2, which will be going to our new home in a couple of weeks. We have control surfaces. We have wing roots. We have wing tips, both 2- and 4-place. We have a pallet of rudders, a pallet of elevators, and as you can see, a bunch of rudders along over here from Cheetahs and Tigers, and even the tail feathers for 2-place. So we've got a little mixed master of everything coming in today, and we're trying to organize it so we know what we have. So stand by. Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We're now emptying trailer number 2. Actually, it's really trailer number 1. It's the first one loaded. We've got stuff stacked outside the hangar. We've got wing roots for 2 and 4 place. We got a little of everything. Can't add quite the collection. So this is just some of the work. Wow, more nose bowls coming off. So we got a ton of stuff. It's going to be a while before we get it all organized and find out what we have, but it's coming off the trailers. And everybody here is working like little busy ants. Well, there you go, a view of Ken's stuff coming out of the trailers. We'll have a little bit more fun in a minute. Well, here's a new sensors propeller in a box, and that's a 58 pitch, and the one in the box in front of it's a 56. Brand new, unopened. So something you don't really get to see, and you figure out what they go on, and we'll be putting them out on the Grumman Gang that they'll be available for sale. Stay tuned. We're repositioning the dumpster inside the hangar. My Tiger is now back in the hangar. The engine's at the shop being re-overhauled, and there's a story on that for the Tiger. 94 hours since all new engine. I didn't fly it for a year and a half, and then it wouldn't run right. It's at a shop now to be torn apart and redone because I don't want somebody buying a 75 Tiger with an engine that doesn't run right. So there's the front of the Tiger right over there. And as you can see, another pan through here. We got a little of everything. So if you've got any interest in 2 or 4 place wing tips, wing roots, canopies, motor mounts, control feathers for the back of airplanes, I think we've got you covered. All right. Hope you're enjoying this. Thanks.
Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Grumman Pilots YouTube channel. And today we're going to talk about all my parts that I got from Ken are almost in their place in Texas. They're on their way right now. And you know, all this stuff you saw cluttering my hangar and was keeping us from moving the shop and everything else is on its way to Texas. And you've seen the sitting area and the airplanes tucked back in the corners. But Garner was coming up for a visit, and then along the way, David found out about the visit, and so David jumped in, and he came along, and David and I had been talking for a while about all the parts that I had, because I had never wanted to be in the parts business. And so David was going to come up and look at what I had, and that's what he did, and we worked out a deal. And we didn't want to tell you about this right away during daylight in case somebody wanted to go out and rob them on their way down to Texas. After striking the deal, we began, I'd like to thank Tim and I'd like to thank Soren for showing up and helping, but we took all the parts, the wings and everything else, and one of the airplanes, the Cheetah, and we got those loaded on the trailer, and that was the work for the whole day, just getting the hangar empty. And this is what it looked like at the end of the day. And it was, you know, getting a lot of big holes in it. At this point, people who had flown in were getting ready to fly home, and that's Tim in the beautiful Spanky Mobile getting ready to go. But Sunday morning, there were the trailer and the rental truck ready to go, and they began taking the rest of the stuff and loading the box truck up to take it down to Houston. And so I'm going to let you watch this for just a minute. at the end of the day, this is what the hangar looks like now. We have a lot of big open areas, and we have a couple of piles of trash that we will dispose of. And we also have some hardware that we need to move around. So what we're going to be doing tonight, and what Matt has been doing for the last couple of hours, is rearranging the hangar, getting it all organized and beautiful. And we're going to go ahead and start moving the shop from T6 down there, because we do have the radiant floor up and running now, and it is a wonderful thing. And also too, now that we have finally got the final pictures in of the big open area of the floor, we're going to be moving the rest of the stuff. Our Grumman sign is going to be coming into play. That's going to be a future video, so stay tuned. So we hope you found all this useful and informative. Thanks so much for watching. And again, when you need Grumman parts, you'll be calling Fletch Air. Thanks so much for watching. Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Grumman Pilots YouTube channel. And today we're going to talk about the radiant floor and our hangar floor system. And basically, it's a bunch of PEX tubing put down before the concrete was put into place. And let's talk about the first component, the PEX loops. Now, Matt and I laid this down in 2016, right before heading down to Bowling Green. And there are 4,300 feet in the main hangar, which constitutes 11 loops around. Now we have 2 that run around the outside corner, and what they do is they provide the heat to the outside where it loses it to the rest of the world. And then we have a bunch of main loops in the field that are not quite tightly lit. And then of course we also put down PEX tubing to have a radiant ramp. It's 25 feet by 50 feet so that we can melt snow if we want to. That way we don't have to go out and shovel it. Now, we designed our system based upon the HydroSmart diagram that came with our boiler. So we laid out a manifold board, and this was going to corral all the PEX tubing into the manifold, both the supply and the return lines. So there's 26 pieces of PEX and 13 loops. The 2 on the right are for the radiant ramp. Now let's talk about the rest of the system. As the manifold board is being laid out, we get water from the hot water heater. It comes in, it goes by an expansion tank, it goes to a pump, which blows it around into the floor. Return pump pulls it back out of the floor. And when we got it all put together with the Y strainer, we did a pressure test. And it was during the pressure test that we found out we had a little bit of a problem. We had 4 leaks. And that was because the 1-inch pipe was BSP on one end and NPT on the other.
So this is the air eliminator. Now this one has sweat fittings on it, and it weighs about 3 pounds. It's out of cast brass, and on the inside you have a bunch of stainless steel and a valve that gets the micro bubbles as the flow unturbulent goes through it. Now it's easy enough to look inside, and as you can see there's some stainless steel wire screening inside the valve, inside the air separator, and that's what drives the micro bubbles out. And it's all spiraled up in there, and they come out, and there's a valve at the top to eliminate the air. So this is how you purge the air from the system to get all the bubbles out. So all you have is 99.6% solution and only 0.04% dissolved air.
So here's the system getting ready to go into pressure testing. There's no air eliminator and no pressure valve during the pressure test, but everything's all put up. We're going to work on the electrical wiring here, but we're about ready to turn everything on and have the hot water heater start sending things over. But first we have to do the pressure test, and then we'll load it with the antifreeze mix. And that's pretty much how everything went. Now here's the hot water heater. It's natural gas, 120,000 BTU unit. It is modulating, so it will change how much. So we can start water as low as 100 degrees and take it up to 160. It will do 7 gallons a minute. We have pressure gauges in the system, a Y strainer for taking debris out, the air eliminator to get all the bubbles out, and we have both the input and output pressure and temperature so we can see what's coming into the system and what's coming out as we heat the floor. So here's an example of one of the little pressure gauges that we have in the system. It's right there in the 1-inch copper pipe. We have
isolator valves around the Y strainer. We have isolator valves around both of the motors so that if anything ever happens to them and they have to be changed out, it's not an issue. And there's the pump for the primary loop, and then that goes down into a mixing valve where we can mix the water. Here's our air expansion tank all hooked in, and there's the isolation valve, and here's the manifold for the radiant ramp, and we're having a leak test here, and we're having a few issues that we're going to address. There were 4 leaks in the system, and they were where the manifolds were connected together with the connecting nipples, and that's because the nipples were 1-inch NPT threads and the manifolds are 1-inch BSP threads, and we could never get it to seal, so we welded it with stainless steel piping, and not going to be an issue anymore. So here's the final layout after the final pressure test. We just pan through all the components. There's the air eliminator all installed in the 1-inch and turn line. There's our pressure regulator, and it draws down into an overflow bucket, so if we ever get any pressure, the antifreeze will go into a catch bucket. Isolation valves and pump, our mixing valve right there, and down into the overflow bucket. So now the system's all ready to go. We've got it loaded now with antifreeze, and it's time to turn it on. Well, we turned the system on and it started running, and we started using gas out of our gas line. But to make sure that we could track what was going on with the system and heating everything, we installed a camera on the board so we could watch the air temperature on the bottom left there and the return temperature. And that's what we studied for the next 3 days until the system began to cycle, knowing that they're letting us know that the concrete floor, 500,000 pounds, was up to final temperature of 68 degrees with a start at 43. And not only did we watch the return temperature rise, but we watched the air temperature 3 feet off the floor come up as the floor was being heated. And it came all the way up, and now the system is cycling normally. We've taken our Perfect Prime infrared camera and we can see where the concrete is cool and where the loops are. And we were checking all of that. We finally came around to where we found the big thermal mass, and that was where the manifold, where the 26 lines enter and exit the slab. That piece of concrete is really nice and warm, and that's where we have all the sofas and the recliners so that you can sit someplace nice and warm. So here we are looking at the hot water heater. In our case, it's natural gas. It's a 13,000 to 120,000 BTUs per hour. It's a modulating hot water heater, so it'll give us what we need, up to 7 gallons a minute. And then there's an isolation valve on the tank, and then we talk about system components very quickly. And then here's our air expansion tank, which is our pressure tank to grab the pressure ripples out of the system when the motors start up and shut down. There's our air separator and our overflow bucket so we can catch our expensive antifreeze water glycol mix back. Our primary pump is 125 horsepower, mainly drives the big loop, sets up the pressure, creates low pressure for the air separator, a mixing valve so that our input and our primary system and secondary system do not have to be at the same temperature. And then that's the line for refilling any volume we're missing. We had to do that a couple times the first couple of days. Here's our supply manifold. The two on the right are for the ramp, and the other ones, or the 11, are for the main field of the hangar. And then we go up into the return side of the manifold, and we have a pump which pulls water out of the floor and goes through an isolation valve, and then comes back into the mixing valve.
So here's the gauge on the side. It's 0.2 to 1 gallon per minute, and liters per minute 1 to 5. 0.05, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and in gallons per minute 0.02 to 1.3 at the max. Turn line back through the secondary system pump, back to the mixing valve, back through the Y strainer to collect any sediment or trash, and back on out. Now the things to notice around the pump: the Y strainers are isolation valves, so in the future if anyone ever needs to be changed, then they're right there ready to go. And the mixing valve is set right now for one big primary loop, and we can mix it partially if we want to run our primary loop at one temperature and our secondary loop at another, but we're running everything at one time, and we have the two pressure gauges in the system for both supply and return pressure, as well as a 1/25th horsepower primary pump and a 1/6 horsepower pump for the secondary loop to push the 3300.
Well, that's the radiant system we're using to heat the floor. It's a simple system. We hope you found all this useful and informative. Thanks for watching, and have a good day flying your Grumman.
And so here's a little split screen of both thermal and visual of the work that we did, and we wrote the software to analyze all this data, and we eventually found the original Wright Brothers hangar. Not too bad for a Grumman traveler, huh?
Will you go to Papa Whiskey Papa, left course traffic approved? He's doing touch and goes and just hauling around. Let's see, Patterson Tower, do you need a NASA flight to continue to hold out here? NASA flight negative. Roger, NASA flight heading to Huffman Prairie.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and just to give you a little extra information on the camera ports in that Grumman Traveler, here's a couple of the pages from the 337 file with the FAA. And on the final picture, you'll see that there was a B&C antenna connector on the belly. This allowed us to transmit on ham radio bands, do slow scan, fast scan, amateur television, as well as a variety of other frequencies that we could do ground communications and phone communications from the air while we were doing all this. Hope you found that useful. Thanks.
So you've all known our older cat, Freckles, our cat supervisor, and we'd like to introduce the new cats to you. We have Hopscotch there on the left. The other small ginger is Tarzan. He came with that name, and his sister will be popping up in just a second, and her name is Sweet Pea. These are the new cats that we've adopted into our home. It's going to be a nice little family, and we're having a ball. Thanks for watching.